Life just threw me a curveball this past week that I just wasn't ready for. My dog died and there was absolutely nothing I could do to stop it. But here's the thing about curveballs. They don't ask for permission. They don't wait for convenient timing, and they sure as hell don't care if you're ready or not. But after 20 plus years of leadership, I've learned some things that's changed everything. I'm Miles Threat. Thank you for joining me for Legacy Leaders Lounge today. I help ambitious leaders just like you build a lasting legacy, no matter where you're at in your leadership journey. If you're tired of leadership advice that comes from someone that's never had the world turn upside down, then you're in the right place. Because today I'm going to show you how to adapt when life hits you where it really hurts. And I'm doing it while I'm living it at the same time. I'm not going to sit here and pretend with you that everything is fine. It's good. I'm not even going to try to give you a polished presentation today. That's not real leadership, is it? The real leadership happens in the mess. In those moments when you can barely keep it together. So let's get real for a little bit. Talk about what does it actually take to lead through those curveball moments. See, every leader I know has these moments. That moment when they realize as leaders that they don't have all the answers. And leadership is about what do you do in those moments when you don't have the answers. Just a few days ago, my dog wasn't feeling great. I could tell he needed to go to the vet. And, he's getting up there in years. He was 14 years old. And I knew eventually this time would come. But I didn't know it was going to come this fast. The vet realized he had a mass in the stomach. And they were going to do some exploratory surgery. They couldn't get to it right then. They were going to try to get to it in a few days. They thought he'd make it through the weekend. But he didn't. It happened way faster than I thought. And then way faster than I was ready for. Not to feel like you can ever get ready for those types of things. Kind of reminds me of the time during my nonprofit ministry work overseas, I stepped into the leadership role of leading an international team. I was young at the time. Yeah, this was 20 years ago or more, and thought I knew some things about leadership. I knew stepping into a role on a team that was struggling. I knew the team had some problems. I knew some of the people on the team had some problems. I didn't know the depth of all those problems. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I got myself into a real mess, a very big mess that I really wasn't quite ready for. And I used to think that strong leaders just didn't get emotional about things like that. And I was pretty emotional about some of the things that was going on in that team. And I realized I was dead wrong. The strong leaders, they do get emotional about things. And then they have a lot of things that they have to deal with that's way out of their control. And you have to deal with a lot of things that you just don't really have the answer for. I mean, just last year, I was helping a manufacturing company deal with some of their inventory issues. And I was having to provide and deliver the training that would help them rectify and solve some of those problems. It was a pretty big issue, and there was a lot at stake and a lot on the line because the training was going to be picked apart if it didn't work, because it was one of the few things they were trying new in this situation. And in the midst of it, I was sitting there thinking, great, Miles, they're going to try to set you up failure here. You teach all this leadership stuff, talk about being able to solve big problems. What are you going to do if you can't lead your way out of this, Miles? But here's what I learned in that situation in that international nonprofit team, and what I'm learning this week as I deal with the loss of my dog. See, the first step, it isn't very pretty, and it sure as hell is not comfortable. You have to look reality dead in the eye and call it what it is. See, just this past week, I kind of had to say some of those words out loud that my dog was dying. I had to call my kids, I had to tell my wife, and admit that I wasn't okay with it. I had to be brutally honest with myself. I had to be aware. I'd been trying to make myself aware and prepare myself for this moment. I knew it was going to eventually come for him to pass. I had to be honest about that situation with my nonprofit international team, that it was really screwed up. It was an absolute mess. There needed to be some corrective action to take place for some people. There needed to be some issues that needed to be addressed. And the same thing happened with the inventory training. That was a screwed up mess as well. And I had to be able to help equip almost 300 people to be involved in this and help us solve this problem. And a lot of times as a leader, when you're in these situations, people you're working with, they already know something is wrong. People knew stuff was wrong with that inventory. People on my international team knew that there were issues on the team. And the reality was, they're just waiting for me as a leader to admit that we had issues, to be brave enough to admit that maybe I don't always have all the right answers for them all, but I do know a few steps we need to take to move forward. I tried to spend some time to convince myself it really wasn't that bad in either situation, but spoiler alert, it was. Just like with my dog, I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, it may sound bad, but not like it was going to just happen like within the next couple of hours. But when you get to that awareness point and you stop lying to yourself, you can start making some real decisions. And here's where most leaders freeze up. They think they need to make perfect decisions. I've made very few perfect decisions in my life. I don't think they really exist. And I know for sure perfect decisions, they do not exist in a crisis moment. Only necessary decisions exist in those moments of crisis. So yeah, I had a lot of plans this past weekend, but those plans, they changed in a hurry. I decided to spend the time with my dog while I could. What extra time he had, what time I had that day, I was there with him. I was beside him, trying to help him manage the pain and cope as much as he can and with what he's having to go through, and not having an answer or solution for him. And yeah, I had to make a lot of adjustments that day. And whether it was at inventory training or leading that international nonprofit team back in the day, I had to stop pretending things were okay. I had to start implementing some changes, start making some decisions, following through with some corrective action, holding people accountable. But they were tough decisions that needed to be made in that moment. They weren't always perfect, but they needed to be made. You see, your decision doesn't have to be right forever. It just needs to be right for right now. I don't know what you're dealing with right now, what you face with right now, but there's some tough decisions that you're just going to have to make. And they're the necessary ones, and they're ones that you need to do right now. And just make them and move forward. Even in baseball, when you're in the batter's box, you're not able to see the whole game before your eyes. All you can do is focus on that next pitch and whether you're going to pull the trigger and make that swing or not. And right now, you just need to focus on that next pitch and need to decide if that's the right pitch for you to pull the trigger on and swing. But here's where it gets interesting. Making decisions is just the beginning. This is where leaders either evolve or dissolve, because adjusting means the old ways of doing things just isn't working out. So this past weekend, I had to make some major adjustment. Ended up adjusting my whole Saturday, everything I had planned, even recording this and working on my social media and doing the things that I needed to get done over my weekend that I can't normally get to during the week because I still got that day job that sucks my time away. But I had to make a lot of adjustments. I also had to give myself a lot of grace and realize I don't have to be on right now. I don't have to have it all together. I don't have to have all the answers. It was the same thing with that inventory training. There were tons of adjustments that we had to make along the way. I had to build the training from scratch. And the organization that we were partnering with, they didn't have any training related to their scanners and tablets that we were using, and we had to create it. And as we were doing it, yeah, there were adjustments that needed to be made, so we make sure those that are going to be actually doing it, we're going to be able to do it the right way so that we can get those accurate counts. And even in the middle of doing it, there were more adjustments that needed to be made so that we could be successful. There were times I had to swallow my pride, ask for help, and it was in those moments when people really saw me as a leader being human, and it made a connection. And it's in those moments when you're having to adjust and you don't have it all together and you don't have all the answers and you're trying to make the right decision, the decision you need to make right now, and you're adapting to it as you go, and they see your human side of it. That's when you're going to make that kind of connection. That is when you're going to make that impact that you want to make. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about being authentic. It's about being yourself in those moments. If there's one thing I learned over 20 plus years of leadership experience, is it's okay to admit that you don't know. And there's been plenty of times I did not know. And sometimes that's the smartest thing you can say. Your adjustments along the way, people might think and view them as weakness and judging you for them. But in reality, it looks like wisdom. Now comes the part that separates the talkers from the doers. Performance in crisis doesn't look like performance in calm. It's messier, it's slower, it's more human. This week, for me, performance looks like, hey, I'm showing up in the middle of heartbreak. And there's going to be times I could care less about your ideas or any of the stupid shit that might be going on in the background that doesn't mean a thing to nobody. And sometimes showing up is the best thing you can do. And that might be all you can do. And that's okay. Leading that international nonprofit team, performance meant that I stayed the course and stayed the path with some of the corrective action things I had to do with some of the team members because it needed to be done and it hadn't been done at that point in time. And I needed to step up and lead and do it. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't fun. It was a freaking ass mess. Grown ass adults acting like stupid ass teenagers. It's not about you being superhuman or being Superman in that moment. It's about being consistent when consistency is hard. And right now, being consistent is pretty damn hard. Because the reality is, I just don't want to have to deal with it. And some days, your best performance is not giving up. And that hard consistency is just you showing up. So if you're at that moment right now, and it's really hard, just show up. Just keep going one more day. Don't make a decision to quit today. Go one more day. That's all. And that brings me to the hardest part of all. Trust is terrifying when everything feels uncertain, but it's also the only way forward. See, right now I have to trust that this pain has a purpose, even when I can't see it. In that inventory training, I had to trust that everything I equipped my team to do and instilled in them to do, and the procedures and policies and the way we were going to do it, I had to trust them to follow through with that. And I had to trust them to be able to handle more than I think that they could handle. And they stepped up to the plate. And leading that nonprofit international team, I had to trust that the processes I was putting people through were going to bring about the change. I also had to trust God that He was going to work in their heart. And I had to trust that they were going to let Him. See, that river, it doesn't fight the rocks. It trusts that it's going to find a way around them. Sometimes that trust looks like you're letting go of control. And other times it's look like you're holding on tighter. Wisdom is knowing which one you need right now. Do you need to let go of control, or do you need to hold on tighter right now? All right, enough about me. What about your curveballs? Right now, while you're watching this, there's something going on in your life or leadership that's not going according to plan. But don't wait till Monday. Don't wait till you feel ready. Start with awareness right now. What are the things you've been avoiding looking at directly right now? Just make one decision today. Just one. It doesn't have to change everything. It just has to change something right now. And then adjust one thing. Maybe it's your communication. Maybe it's who you ask for help. Maybe it's just giving yourself a little more grace today. If you're still with me right now, that tells me something about you. You're not afraid of the real stuff. Hit that subscribe button if you want more leadership that's actually lived out and not just taught. And drop a comment. What is your curveball right now? I'll personally help you figure out how to adapt to it. Because that's what real leaders do. We help each other through the mess. Look, I don't know how the rest of this week is going to end for me right now. I know I got a shit ton of work just dumped on me from the job, but I know I'll learn to face it just like I faced every other curveball that's come my way, by adapting, not drifting. And if you're facing your own curveball, remember this. The strongest leaders aren't the ones who never get hit. They're the ones that know how to get back in that batter's box. I'll see you next week, and we'll keep building a legacy together, one curveball at a time. I'm Miles Threat. Thank you for joining me for Legacy Leaders Lounge today.